Welcome to the deep dive. So you asked us how to truly learn and create in this age of, well, endless information without feeling completely overwhelmed.
Right. It's a common feeling, isn't it? Just drowning in data.
Totally. So we've plunged into a fascinating set of sources, primarily drawing from a really thought-provoking book, actually, to explore the power of something called deep work.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission today is to extract some, truly actionable strategies, stuff to help you cultivate that focus in your own life.
Exactly. Deep work, at its heart, it's really about the ability to concentrate without distraction on cognitively demanding tasks. The hard stuff.
Right.
And it's this focused intensity that lets you master complex information quickly and, frankly, produce exceptional results.
Which sounds great, especially now in our world of constant pings and notifications.
Oh, definitely. It's a skill that offers a real edge, a genuine advantage.
Okay, so let's dig a little deeper into why this is so critical today. Our sources make a pretty strong case that in our current information economy, this ability to do deep work has become like a key currency for knowledge workers.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's a real shift from, say, the industrial era where for many jobs, sustained intense focus wasn't always the main thing.
Right, you're often paid more for your physical output, maybe following a process.
Precisely. The industrial model often prioritized, process efficiency, maybe repetitive tasks, but increasingly our value lies in our ideas, our insights, our creative contributions.
And those things need space to grow.
They do. They require the ability to really immerse ourselves in a subject, to think deeply and crucially without interruption.
And the book we've been exploring gives some really striking examples of people who kind of intuitively got this, even before maybe deep work was a buzzword.
Mm-hmm.
Like Carl Jung. Get this, he actually designed and built a stone tower. Yeah, a personal sanctuary just for uninterrupted thinking.
Yes.
That's a pretty serious commitment to focus.
It really is. Think about the time, the resources, time he could have spent seeing patients, maybe.
It was essential for the groundbreaking work he did.
That's the argument. What's insightful there is Jung's proactive creation of an environment. He knew his best work needed that sustained distraction-free time.
He didn't just avoid interruptions, he actively built a space for focus.
Exactly, a mental space ripe for those aha moments.
Okay, then there's the story of Jason Ben. He was a financial consultant, feeling a bit stuck.
Okay.
And he made this incredibly decisive choice to learn coding. And his method was, well, almost monastic.
How so?
He basically isolated himself with just textbooks and note cards for months. No computer, no internet.
Wow, just pure focused study.
Exactly. And it paid off hugely. He aced a notoriously tough coding boot camp, totally changed his career.
That really shows how, intentionally cultivating deep work can lead to massive life changes. He knew his weakness focus and designed his way around it.
18 books, apparently.
Incredible. That unwavering focus let him rapidly pick up a really valuable skill. Big salary jump, thriving career in Silicon Valley. It worked.
And it's not just these huge career pivots. The author of our main source, they share their own experience in academia.
Mm-hmm.
By consciously dedicating just, say, 3 to 4 hours a day to deep, uninterrupted work. And really pushing aside the shallow stuff.
Like email, meetings, maybe?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
They achieved remarkable productivity books, published, doctorate earned, got tenure, all without those famously brutal academic work weeks.
That's key. It shows it's not just about the quantity of hours, right? It's the quality of focus within those hours.
Making your working time much more impactful.
Exactly. Deep work isn't about sheer endurance. It's about impact.
Yeah.
Achieving more in less time, which directly tackles that feeling of being overwhelmed you mentioned.
Okay, so we see deep work as this incredibly valuable skill. But our sources also point out something else. It's becoming increasingly rare.
Yeah, that's the paradox. It's more valuable than ever, but harder to find.
So what are some of the big reasons for that? Why is it so rare?
Well, several modern workplace trends actively work against it. A prime example, open office spaces.
Ah, yes, the bane of many people's existence.
Right. Companies like Facebook and Square often push these layouts, thinking, they'll spark serendipity, interaction.
Spontaneous collaboration, yeah.
But a growing pile of research suggests these open environments are actually incredibly disruptive. They make that sustained concentration needed for deep work really, really difficult.
It's almost counterintuitive, isn't it?
Yeah.
More interaction should mean more innovation.
But the constant noise, the visual distraction, the potential for interruptions just constantly derail your train of thought.
And then there's this other pressure, this pervasive pressure for creators journalists, novelists, academics, whoever, to constantly be on social media.
Oh, definitely. Even really serious professionals feel they have to maintain a presence on platforms like Twitter.
The book mentions Jonathan Franzen, the novelist. He was pretty negative about Twitter.
And got quite a bit of backlash for it, yeah. It highlights that tension, the expectation of being engaged online versus the need for quiet, focused work time.
George Packer, too, the writer for The New Yorker.
Right. He consciously avoids Twitter precisely because he thinks it fragments his attention, pulls him away from the deep writing, and he won a National Book Award around that time, so.
It really throws this conflict into sharp relief, doesn't it? This perceived need for constant connectivity versus the maybe less visible but really valuable results of focused work.
Absolutely. And our sources also make a more fundamental point about why deep work is rare. It's just harder than shallow work.
Easier to check email.
Way easier. Checking email, scrolling social media, that gives you that immediate, easy hit of, feeling busy or connected. Deep work takes effort.
So that leads to the principle of least resistance in business settings.
Exactly. If the impact of different activities isn't crystal clear, like how much value did that hour of deep thinking create versus answering 20 emails, people naturally drift towards the easier thing in the moment.
Constant connectivity feels productive, even if it isn't really moving the needle on the big stuff.
Right. You feel in the know, responsive.
And this connects to what our source calls the metric black hole.
Explain that.
It's just incredibly hard to directly measure the long-term value of deep, focused work compared to the very visible activity of shallow work, email sent, posts liked, whatever.
Okay. So the shallow stuff is easy to count.
Right. And because it's easy to count, those distracting high-tech behaviors can end up seeming more valuable than they are, simply because their output is quantifiable, even if the actual contribution is tiny.
Yeah, that makes sense. Without clear proof of deep work's superior value, the tendency is to prioritize what you can easily see and measure.
This paints a bit of a sobering picture, huh? Value is high, but trends are pushing against it.
It does seem that way. But our sources also delved into a really crucial, maybe more uplifting aspect, the connection between deep work and, meaning, satisfaction.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about output, it's about fulfillment.
That's a vital point, yeah. The book uses this really compelling example of Rick Furrer, a master swordsmith.
Okay.
Yeah. And he derives immense meaning from the incredibly demanding, intensely focused nature of his craft.
I can imagine that takes focus.
He talks about the intricate complexity, the deep personal investment required, a tiny lapse in concentration, hours of work ruined.
Wow. High stakes.
Exactly. And what stands out is that direct feedback loop, the tangible result of his focused effort and the mastery he develops. Those are key drivers of that sense of meaning.
And that intense concentration that can lead to that state of flow, right?
Precisely. That feeling when you're completely absorbed, time just melts away and all the little nagging distractions just vanish.
Like you're totally in the zone.
Csikszentmihalyi, who studied flow extensively, pointed out that when your attention is that engaged, there's literally no mental bandwidth left for irrelevant worries or distractions.
Which sounds amazing in today's world.
It is, not just for productivity, but for well-being. Shutting out the noise. Usually, flow happens when a task is challenging but manageable, right at the edge of your skills.
Our sources even get a bit philosophical here, referencing Dreyfus and Kelly's book, All Things Shining.
They talk about how we've maybe lost touch with a sense of the sacred, shining things in the world.
Yeah, what does that mean in this context?
Well, Dreyfus and Kelly suggest that through dedicated craftsmanship, whether it's something traditional like woodworking or modern like, say, computer programming, we can rediscover that sense of meaning.
Finding the sacred in the skill itself.
Kind of. There's a great quote from Santiago Gonzalez comparing elegant code to poetry, and another reference linking coding to building medieval cathedrals.
Okay, so it's about the dedication, the craft.
Yes. The crucial insight is that this deep meaning isn't necessarily tied to having a fancy job title. It comes from the skill and appreciation inherent in craftsmanship.
So it's about how you approach the work, not just what the work is. A rarefied approach versus a rarefied job.
Beautifully put. And cultivating that level of craftsmanship absolutely demands deep work. It's through that intense focus, that dedication to honing your skills, that you find real satisfaction. It turns a job from just an obligation into something truly rewarding.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly compelling. Deep work equals productivity and meaning. But the big question is, how do we actually do it? How do we weave more deep work into our lives?
Right, the practical side. Our sources offer some really concrete strategies, starting with the idea of developing your own personal philosophy for integrating it.
A philosophy, like a style.
Yeah, kind of. There's no single right way. The book outlines 4 distinct approaches. First, there's the monastic philosophy.
Sounds intense.
It is. It involves pretty much eliminating shallow work altogether. Think Neil Stephenson, the sci-fi author, famously avoids email, conferences, anything that might break his concentration bubble.
So building a fortress around your focus.
Pretty much. Then there's the bimodal approach.
Bimodal, 2 modes.
Exactly. You strategically divide your time, big blocks for deep work, then other periods where you're more open to shallower tasks, meetings, emails, whatever.
Okay, like splitting your week or year.
Could be. Adam Grant, the Wharton professor, does this. He structures his semesters and even his weeks with these distinct deep work phases. There was also a study on consultants disconnecting 1 day a week. Similar idea.
All right, what else?
The rhythmic philosophy. This is about building a consistent daily habit, making deep work a predictable part of your routine, like exercise. Same time, same place, maybe.
Making it automatic.
Yeah, reducing the decision fatigue. And finally, the journalistic approach.
Like a journalist on deadline.
Sort of. It's about seizing opportunities for deep work whenever pockets of free time pop up. Unexpectedly free hour. Dive in. The author uses this method, fitting work around kids' naps or cancellations. Walter Isaacson, the biographer, apparently worked in short, intense bursts like this too.
Interesting. So finding the style that fits your life and personality.
Exactly. But regardless of the philosophy, our sources stress creating rituals around your deep work sessions.
Rituals, like what?
Things that structure your environment and mindset for focus. Think J.K. Rowling checking into a hotel to finish Harry Potter, or William Shockley, the inventor, isolating himself in hotel rooms.
Creating a clear signal. Now it's focus time.
Yes. Consistent pre-focus routines, they minimize friction, act like a mental on-ramp into that deep state.
Okay. Now, we've talked a lot about individual focus. What about collaboration? Does deep work mean being a hermit?
Good question. The book clarifies that while, yes, open offices can be bad for individual focus, strategic collaboration can actually enhance deep work.
How does that work?
It talks about a hub-and-spoke model.
Yeah.
You benefit from interaction in collaborative hubs, getting diverse ideas, bouncing things off people.
Okay.
But then you retreat to your individual spoke, your office, your quiet space to do the focused work needed to process those ideas and make progress.
So scheduled interaction, then protected focus time.
Exactly. Bell Labs, famous for innovation, apparently had a setup like this. Collaboration fueled breakthroughs, but those breakthroughs often require deep individual work. It's about being intentional.
Balancing connection and concentration.
Precisely. It's not anti-collaboration, it's anti-distraction.
Now, the book takes a really interesting turn here. It suggests we should approach executing deep work, almost like running a business.
Yeah, applying business principles to personal productivity. It introduces the 4 disciplines of execution, or 40X.
Okay, 40X for deep work. What are the disciplines?
Discipline number 1, focus on the wildly important.
Wildly important goals. WIGs.
That's the term, yeah. Identify a small number, maybe just 1 or 2 really ambitious outcomes you want to achieve, specifically through deep work, not vague stuff like be more focused, concrete goals.
Okay, be specific and ambitious. What's next?
Discipline 2, act on the lead measures. This is crucial. Instead of only tracking the results, the lag measures, like the finished project.
The thing that happens at the end.
Right. You focus on tracking the actions that drive those results, the lead measures. For deep work, the most obvious lead measure is time spent in deep concentration.
Oh, okay. So track the doing, not just the done. Like tracking workouts, not just weight loss.
Perfect analogy. By tracking your deep work hours, you make it tangible. You see the progress daily. Each focused hour is a win, a step towards that wildly important goal.
Makes sense. And this connects to something else the book really hammers home. The importance of regular downtime.
Absolutely essential. You can't just do deep work endlessly. The sources give compelling reasons why downtime isn't laziness, it's critical.
Okay, why? Reason 1.
Recharge your mental energy. It references attention restoration theory, basically. Our ability to focus gets depleted. Spending time in nature specifically seems really effective at restoring it. Studies show better focus after a walk in a park versus a busy street.
Interesting. Okay, reason 2.
Downtime actually fosters insights. Your unconscious mind keeps chewing on problems even when you're not actively thinking about them. You know, the shower thoughts, the ideas that pop up while walking.
Right, letting things percolate.
Exactly. And thirdly, it's crucial for preventing burnout. Research on expert performers, like musicians or athletes, suggests there's a limit to how much intense concentration we can handle each day, maybe only a few hours. Pushing past that leads to diminishing returns and exhaustion.
So downtime is actually productive in its own way.
Hugely productive for long-term sustainability. And to really make it work, the book recommends consistent shutdown rituals at the end of the workday.
A shutdown ritual, what does that involve?
It's a consistent routine to consciously end your work. Review unfinished tasks, make a plan for tomorrow, maybe tidy your desk. The key is creating a clear mental break.
Like closing the mental tabs for work.
Exactly. Some people even use a specific phrase, like saying out loud, shutdown complete. It sounds a bit silly, maybe, but it signals to your brain that it's okay to disengage. It helps counter that Zeigarnik effect. You know, how unfinished tasks keep nagging at you.
Ah, right. By planning their completion, you quiet the nagging.
Precisely. You tell your brain, it's handled.
Our sources also stress that concentration isn't just fixed. It's like a skill, a mental muscle you can train.
There's that example of Adam Marlin, who found studying the Talmud actually improved his business insights.
Because it trained his focus muscle.
That's the idea. Consistent mental exertion in one area strengthens cognitive abilities generally. But the flip side is, we need to actively wean ourselves off distraction.
Because constant switching hurts that muscle.
Yeah, Clifford Nass's research at Stanford showed pretty clearly that chronic multitasking and constant online attention switching actually degrades your ability to filter out irrelevance and sustain focus. It rewires your brain in an unhelpful way.
So just taking an occasional digital detox isn't enough?
Probably not. The book argues that occasional disconnection is good, but the real training comes from managing attention during connection. It suggests scheduling internet blocks.
Like designated times to be online and actively staying offline otherwise.
Exactly. Minimize the constant toggling. Take a proactive stance. By intentionally blocking off internet time and resisting it outside those blocks, you're doing reps for your attention muscle. Mental calisthenics for focus.
Okay, so we've covered managing work time, training focus, but the sources also talk about cultivating a deep life more broadly. What does that look like?
It extends beyond just the 9 to 5. One technique mentioned is productive meditation.
Productive meditation. Sounds like an oxymoron.
Yeah, a little. But it means using otherwise dead time walking, commuting, showering maybe, to actively think deeply about a specific professional problem.
So not just letting your mind wander, but directing it.
Right. It's structured. Review the variables, define the very next question you need to answer, and then focus your thinking on that question. And consciously try to consolidate any insights you gain.
Turning commute time into think time. Interesting.
And there are even more direct, almost like brain training methods suggested, like the strategy of memorizing a deck of cards.
Whoa, okay. Memorizing cards. Seriously.
Sounds intense, right? But the idea isn't necessarily to become a memory champion. It's that the techniques involved visualization using memory palaces are powerful exercises for strengthening your general ability to concentrate.
Training the focus muscle very directly.
Exactly. But maybe the most fundamental part of cultivating a deep life is, unsurprisingly, dramatically reducing your time spent on shallow work.
Getting ruthless about the low-value stuff.
Yes. The book critiques what it calls the any-benefit approach to adopting tools, especially network tools like social media or new apps.
The any-benefit approach.
Yeah, the mindset where if a tool offers any potential advantage, however small or infrequent, that's seen as justification enough to use it.
Accumulating tools without really weighing the costs, like distraction.
Precisely. Instead, it advocates for a craftsman approach.
Like the swordsmith.
Kind of. Be deliberate. Carefully evaluate tools based on whether they significantly advance your core professional goals and values. Weigh the pros and the cons rigorously. There's an example of a farmer, Forrest Pritchard, being very thoughtful about buying new equipment. Same principle applies to digital tools.
So be intentional about your toolkit. Don't just grab every shiny new app.
Right. And this leads to applying the law of the vital few, the 80-20 rule, to your internet habits.
Okay, how does that apply?
Identify the 20% of your online activities or tools that deliver 80% of the real value for you, professionally or personally. Focus intensely on those and be really aggressive about cutting back or eliminating the rest.
The low-yield stuff.
Exactly. The sources mention highly successful writers like Malcolm Gladwell, Michael Lewis, George Packer. They tend to have a very limited, very focused online presence. They're not everywhere all the time.
They practice that craftsman approach to their attention.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
And for people really struggling with, say, social media's pull, the book even suggests a radical experiment. a 30-day social media detox.
Going cold turkey for a month.
Yeah, like a packing party for your social media life. Put it all away for 30 days. The goal isn't necessarily to quit forever, but to break the habit loops and gain real perspective on how important or unimportant those services actually are to you.
You might find you don't miss them as much as you thought.
That's often the reported outcome, yeah. It recalibrates your sense of their value.
Our sources also bring up structuring your leisure time differently, referencing Arnold Bennett's old book, How to Live on 24 Hours a Day.
Bennett argued for consciously creating a day within a day, using those evening hours after work not just for passive consumption, but for rigorous self-improvement, reading, learning.
Being intentional with your free time, too.
Yes. The idea is that engaging your mind in structured leisure can actually boost your energy and focus during work hours, rather than draining it.
Okay, and then there's fixed schedule productivity. What's that?
It's pretty straightforward. Decide in advance when you're going to finish work each day, say 5:30 p.m. sharp, and stick to it. Then work backward from that deadline.
So the fixed end time forces you to be more efficient.
Exactly. It creates urgency. You have to figure out how to fit the important stuff into that fixed container. It pushes you to prioritize ruthlessly and find efficiencies rather than just letting work expand to fill all available time, which happens a lot, especially in some fields.
Working smarter within limits, not just longer.
Precisely. And finally, some very practical advice on managing communication, specifically email, using sender filters.
Yeah, basically setting up rules or systems so that only emails from certain people or about certain projects demand your immediate attention. Pushing less critical stuff to batch processing later.
Taking control of the inbox rather than letting it control you.
And the advice to do more work when you send or reply to emails. What does that mean?
It means aiming to make your emails so clear, complete, and forward-thinking that they end the conversation or significantly reduce the need for back and forth. Anticipate the next question, provide all necessary info up front.
Saving future you and the recipient time and attention.
Exactly. And related to that, the suggestion to sometimes just don't respond.
Really? Just ignore emails?
Well, specifically emails that are ambiguous, where you're not sure what's being asked, or ones that are completely uninteresting, or where no significant consequence hinges on your reply.
Letting the sender clarify or letting the unimportant stuff just fade away.
It's a filter. It requires judgment, obviously, but it can be a powerful way to protect your focus from low-value demands.
All these strategies, they really circle back to that core idea, don't they?
They do.
The profound value of cultivating deep work, of protecting your focus in a world that's constantly trying to slice it up. The source ends by mentioning Bill Gates' legendary focus.
Right, his think weeks.
And highlighting the potential for a life that's rich with both significant productivity and genuine meaning when we actually prioritize this ability.
Ultimately, it really is about recognizing that your attention is probably your most valuable and most finite resource. Deep work is about making conscious, deliberate choices about where you invest it.
It's a path not just to getting more done, but potentially to a more satisfying professional life overall.
Definitely seems to be the argument.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we've really journeyed through the whole concept. The essential nature of focus in today's world, the distractions making it rare.
The surprising link between deep work and finding meaning.
Right. And a whole toolkit of practical strategies, finding your philosophy, executing like a business, training your focus, managing your tools and time.
And the core message, really, for anyone feeling overwhelmed while trying to learn or create is that the answer probably isn't multitasking or trying to absorb more. It's about prioritizing that deep, focused, uninterrupted concentration.
And actively pushing back against the shallow stuff that fragments our attention.
Exactly. Minimizing those distractions that hinder real progress.
So maybe a final thought for you listening.
Yeah.
Take a moment to consider those shiny thrums of distraction in your own life.
The notifications, the endless scroll, that knee-jerk reaction to every single ping.
Could those things be subtly undermining your ability to reach those deeper levels of focus and maybe missing out on the rewards that come with it?
It's worth considering.
Maybe just experiment. Try one or two of these strategies we talked about today. See what happens when you carve out a little more space to truly dive deep. Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Hey there. Subscribe to my channel. And also press this bell icon.